There is no way this came out of a DJI Osmo Pocket 3.
Yo, what's the story? I know you're probably looking at this going, this doesn't look exactly quite right. And this is from the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. Now, the reason this doesn't look quite right is because I'm in manual mode and I'm trying to get that motion blur, that cinematic motion blur, which you should be able to see if I freeze frame this. You can see the blur in my hands, but this is unusable footage. So let me pop the camera into another mode and then we can fix that. Now, that obviously looks a lot better. And all I've done here is put the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 into auto mode, but that's caused one big problem. If we look at this, where's the motion blur gone? If we freeze frame, it's kind of stuttery, it's jittery. We don't have that cinematic motion blur. Now, just before we get into this, what the heck is cinematic motion blur? It's something that you have seen in, I guess, nearly every single movie you have ever watched in your entire life. Not just recently, but like forever, because we're all old as fuck. I don't want to get too technical here and bore the absolute socks, pants, and tops off of everybody, but if you're shooting something on the Osmo Pocket 3 or a lot of cameras, you have different frames per second. So in this mode here, I'm shooting at 4K 24. That means the Osmo Pocket 3 is shooting 24 frames every single second. And then it puts them all together and it makes a video. That's essentially it. That's how cameras work when they're taking video. Done, right? So that's part one. Or if it's 4K 60, then it's taking 60 frames every second, okay? We got that part. Now, here's the cinematic motion blur side of it. I really wish I brought sunglasses. Now, this is kind of the tricky part, but it's not the tricky part. We're talking your shutter speed. 1/50, or technically it's 1/48. So 1/50th of a second is the amount of times that the actual shutter is shooting those frames. And when you shoot at 1/50th of a second, you get that cinematic motion blur. It's more natural. It's what we've all seen for a trillion years, and that's basically it. However, with something like the Osmo Pocket 3 and a lot of cameras, you can't really do that. You can kinda, but it means putting the camera into manual mode, and you actually, yeah, let's not fall down the stairs and die, and you actually take control of the shutter speed, and then that allows you to dial in that 1/50. But what happens when you do that? Well, if you go back to the earlier footage, you'll see exactly what happened. Everything is blown out because when the shutter's staying open for 1/50th of a second, it's sucking in a lot of light. And that's the problem. That's why it looks blown out. And that's why when you leave something like the Osmo Pocket 3 control the shutter speed, it drives up that shutter speed really high. And then that's when things start looking jittery as If you've been watching this channel for a long time, you know trains and me don't get on. They interrupt these videos constantly. Anyway, for you to take control of your shutter speed and reduce the amount of light coming into the actual Osmo Pocket 3 so you can take control fully of that 1/50 shutter speed and make things look motiony, blurry, cinematic, you need these. These are ND filters from Freewell, so thanks to Freewell for sending me these for review. Now, what these essentially are, think of them like this. Little teeny tiny, and this is a cliche, but they're sunglasses for your Osmo Pocket 3. That's what they are, and they come in different strengths, and they basically make the image a lot darker. What does that mean? You get full control, and then you can get motion blur. You got to bounce the Osmo Pocket 3 into manual, and now you can see, look at that, motion blur. Cinematic stuff everywhere. It's amazing. Run, look, blurs. There you go. See, Michael Bay, Steven Spielberg, whatever. Yeah, motion blur for days. Now, motion blur doesn't work for everything. Obviously, this boat here is moving relatively slowly, but if we start moving the camera fast, we can see, hopefully nothing falls off or explodes, but we are getting motion blur.
Some more sun, I shouldn't complain. That's because motion blur is directly connected to how fast something is moving. So if you're at that 1/50, 1/48 of a second, then when things are moving fast, they blur a lot. Once you've got your ND filters and stuff set up, right? But speaking of these ND filters, Freewell have sent me this ND filter pack now. They said, here you go for it, review, that's it. No money, no say this, say that, or the other, right? So that's full disclosure. In this gigantic pack, there's a whole bunch of different ND filters. They start at ND 8, they go all the way up to ND 1000. So that's just on the ND filters in this pack, and they just magnetically attach onto the front of the Osmo Pocket 3. Now, you can't turn off the Osmo Pocket 3 with them on. Well, you can, but it won't turn in and save your lens, but it'll turn the other way. And the good thing is these filters will absolutely fit in the case that came with the Osmo Pocket 3. There's a whole bunch of other filters in here as well, like polarizing filters, which help take the reflection out of different things. There's also a mist filter for extra cinematic stuff, which it blooms out highlights and things. It's subtle, but it's very, very nice. And there is something else that you can do with these ND filters when it comes to, it's not video, it's photo. You would think there is no way this came out of a DJI Osmo Pocket 3. For photographs like this, you have to use the Osmo Pocket 3's DJI Mimo app, which is on your phone. Now, this helps you see the scene a little bit better. It gives you a better idea of exposure. You have a histogram on screen if you need it. And then you just bounce into manual mode. Once you're in manual mode, you can change around the ISO, and then you can, most importantly, bring the shutter speed down as slow as it will go. Now, for the Osmo Pocket 3, the most you can go is 1 second. So this is what I got for 1 second. More than enough for fast-moving footage, but it may not be enough for what you're doing, but it's enough for getting the ball rolling, essentially. And that's it. Amazing looking photograph, and then you can bring it into Lightroom or whatever photo editing app that you use, and boom, you get this, which is a really good looking photograph. You're not going to go, that's not out of an Osmo Pocket 3. Really? Is it? It is. Yeah, so it's a really good thing. Now, that's the downside of the NV filters. Ultimately, I feel the other downside is, while they are beginner friendly, they just like pop on and pop off. That's it. When you're starting out, Freewell do give you a little guide, and it explains exactly which ones do what, but little bit of trial and error that's what I would suggest. Just dive in and just put them on and put them off and see what you get. It's not like we're printing to film or anything like that, so if one doesn't work, try the next one up or the next one down and work it that way, and they're fun. But more importantly, if you're serious about the Osmo Pocket 3 and kind of getting the best looking cinematic footage with that motion blur, look, I'll be honest, it's probably not for everybody. Some folks just don't care. But those of you that do, this is the only way you can do it. So it's a big deal. Something else that's also a big deal, this video is going to show you all of the mistakes that you could make with the DJI Osmo Pocket 3, but if you watch it, you will never make any of those mistakes.
Perfect.